Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Two Crime Besties. Hey, Meg, how are you?
Good, thanks. How are you, Emma?
I'm good. I've had a bloody busy week, though. My God, this was the week of appointments. We had so many extra appointments, so many extra things, and it's just been bloody mental. So I had final appointment this morning, and I'm like, I can relax into the weekend now.
Yeah, I'm feeling like Sunday I can do that. I feel like breathe.
Yeah.
Yeah, Saturday's going to be mental for us, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even tonight, I've said to the boys, it's one thing after the other tonight, even to be prepared for what's coming.
Yes.
It's that whole, it's crazy. Yeah,
well, you're hosting a sleepover for 8-year-olds on the weekend, so
I'm a fucking idiot.
glad it's not me.
Yeah, no sleep for me. Yeah. That'll be fine.
You'll get sleep from my kid.
Your son will not be the problem.
No.
By any means. He'll be asleep by 7 p.m. He's good.
Yeah. Oh, the boys, the others might push him to 8. I don't know.
God.
Although last night Oliver had footy training until 7 and Peter had come to pick Lucas up to take him back early, but then he didn't want to go and he was running around with a few kids and having a play.
Yeah.
So we actually, all of us didn't get home until, 7:15 or something. And then they needed a snack because I'd fed them dinner at like bloody 4 o'clock.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
they needed a bit of a snack before bed. So he actually didn't get to bed until 8 o'clock anyway. But then this morning I had to wake him up and it was like dragging, I don't know.
Yeah.
A teen. It was like dragging a teen out of bed. I'm
dreading that fact because that's my youngest in the mornings. He can be a shocker. I had to wake him up the other morning too.
And that never starts the day well when you have to wake them up because then they're grumpy and tired. And I mean, I hate being woken up. I get it.
It's not good. The alarm absolutely shits me.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it will be fine. I'm sure that they will eventually fall asleep. And I'm a night owl, so that's okay. Like, it's more the fact. I think that's the thing. I'm just going to let them go a little bit, and they can just
have a great
chat
time
and stuff. And then I'll just have a cut off of like, right, come on, guys, that's it.
Yeah.
Off to sleep you go.
Good night.
You're going to wake up Lucas.
You're a night owl. I'm the opposite.
Yeah,
I'm an early to bed, early to rise kind of a person.
But they'll kill me when they wake up in the morning at bloody 6 a.m. or earlier. Fuck me.
Well, yeah, apparently one of the kids who's going likes to wake up early. So good luck. Good luck.
Oh, I love Brody's sensible nature. He said to me, oh, no, not before 6:30.
Like, no. That's just ungodly. Are you making pancakes for breakfast?
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be pancakes for breakfast.
Sweet. So. Lucas will be happy with that.
Yeah. I'm just controlling the sugar. That's all.
No, in the morning you can give them as much sugar as you want because you're just handing them back to their parents.
To you guys?
Yeah,
right. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Done.
It's the night before I'd be worried if I were you.
I know. I've sort of kept it at a minimum, but yeah, I mean, obviously we've got to do cake and stuff.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, they'll be right.
No, it's exciting. I know Lucas is very excited.
This will be my first, multiple kids sleepover. So, yeah. It'll be interesting. I've held it off this far. It's not really a thing these days, though, is it? Like, sleepovers are less common. Like, back in, I used to have sleepovers all the time as a kid.
Same.
They were like every other weekend. I think almost every second weekend I was at a friend's house for a sleepover, I reckon.
I would say the same with me.
Yeah.
My best friend growing up went to a different primary school.
Yeah.
And so we used to sleep over at each other's houses. Yeah, at least every second weekend we'd be at someone's house.
Yeah.
But I think these days, and it's kind of a sad state of affairs, but I would not let my kids sleep at anyone's house unless I know, like you, obviously, unless I know them inside and out, back to front, and have known them for many, many years.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I just wouldn't.
No, I've had to squash a bit of my kids' expectations of sleepovers for that reason, that I see it from both parents' perspectives of I know the mum say, but maybe I don't know the dad. And so you want to know both parents that they're going to, you want to know that, you sort of feel comfortable. And so,
absolutely.
Yeah, I kind of feel like a little bit like, it's fine. I'm happy to have that child at my house and sleep over. No worries. But, that might not be that child's comfort, that family's comfort level. It's kind of a real test the waters as to whether or not that's something the family would be up for, and how well you know each other. And
yeah, I think you're right though that, and maybe because we have boys it's a bit different, I don't know, maybe boys are less into sleepovers because I know my brother had less sleepovers than I did when we were kids.
Yeah, maybe.
So maybe that's another thing.
True.
But also it's not like our kids being invited to that many sleepovers. So I think
No.
most families probably feel the same way as we do.
Yeah. I mean, like my kids sleep over at their grandparents' place and all those sort of things. So like for them to be away from home like that is comfortable for them, whereas I know other kids aren't. So
Yeah, that's true
it's just
too.
in general for that reason too. I mean, God, we used to do sleepovers even when we'd go camping with families. You know, we'd all swap tents and stuff in caravans that we were sleeping in when we go camping. Sleepovers were just the thing.
Yeah. Crazy times. Well, I'm going to have a free and easy Saturday night when Lucas is at your place.
Yeah.
I've decided we're going to take Oliver to that all-you-can-eat sushi place.
I love it when it comes down to that. It's like, oh, finally we get to have some fancy food.
Yeah, but like, because you can't, you know that, what's it called? Oh my God, I've just had a mental, Okami.
Oh, yeah.
Which is an all-you-can-eat Japanese restaurant. But even to take Lucas there, yes, you pay the kid prices, but it's still like $27 or $28, I think, for a kid.
What's he going to eat, some rice?
And he's going to eat rice.
Yeah.
And even then he doesn't really like rice. He'd just be eating it begrudgingly because there's literally nothing else he'd eat. Whereas Ollie's going to absolutely make the most of his
he's going to eat
portion.
10 people's worth of all you can eat.
Yeah.
So that kid will eat the house down there.
Looking forward to that. So
Oliver,
that's
awesome.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, I love it because my oldest has decided to check out for the night because he doesn't want to be around the littlies having their sleepover either, and I don't blame him. I was like, can I join you?
Yeah. who has to stay home with Grizz? Yeah. Your dog can look after them.
Oh, I know. I sort of went, maybe I'll threaten them if they're not talking. Like, Grizz will eat you.
Grizz is not going to enjoy this.
No. God, as if you'd eat them, he'd lick them to death. Yeah. Oh, God. But then the new Axolotl in the household will keep them entertained too. Ew.
So it was Brody's birthday this week, and all he wanted, like he's been talking about this for months.
For a long time.
All he wanted was an axolotl. Mm-hmm. And Meg caved.
It's caved is literally the word for it too. Like, I don't know
he
where
wore
it
you
came
down.
from.
He wore you down.
Well, that's true, and he does that a lot. Yeah. But I mean, you know how it's one of those things where, like, I am so repulsed by this thing.
It is repulsive.
But the look on his face, one, when I told him, you're going to get that, and that's, you know, when the tank was revealed and you can go choose one. But then the look again of when he actually got it at the fish aquarium place.
Tell the people what the lady at the aquarium said.
Oh, he was so freaking excited he couldn't contain himself. And she's like, "Oh wow, you're a bit excited. You're a bit like a giddy mum, like a giddy new mum."
He's like,
yeah. Now he's basically keeps saying to me, "I am the father of one."
Yeah,
well, he tells me all the time now.
Yep. Well, it takes a lot of care to look after an axolotl. Yeah. You had to defrost some like shrimp stuff or something the other day.
You put it in frozen at least, but at the same time it's something. Like, but watching it eat it.
Yuck. They're just so ugly.
Oh, I kind of looked at it last night and had a moment of like.
Oh, you did not.
No, it was. So I looked at it and went, if I imagine that it's, you know, that movie How to Train Your Dragon?
Yeah.
Toothless, I think its name is.
Yeah, Toothless.
Right, because it's this black Mexican walking fish thing. And I kind of looked at it and went, I can see a little bit of Toothless. And Toothless is kind of cute.
Toothless is cute so as I'm a cartoon.
If I try and lean into it's Toothless, not Kyle as he's been named.
Kyle, I just love it. It's the best.
Yeah.
The morning after you got the axolotl, because you gave him the tank on his birthday, but it was over a long weekend, so you had to wait until the Tuesday to go and get the actual animal
anyway and get the water right before you're allowed to. You can put the thing in there.
I don't know.
I know.
Kill the
you've got to have the right pH level.
Oh, yay for you.
It's as bad as having a pool. Like, you've got to go get the water tested and shit.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, this is a commitment.
Oh, it's, yeah.
How long do they live for?
12 years.
They do not.
12 years.
Are you kidding? I was thinking you was about to say 12 months, and I was like, even that's a commitment.
12 years.
Wow. Oh, wow. Okay. Okay.
I didn't know that until after we got it.
That's mental.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yep. Welcome to the next 12 years of your life.
I don't think it'll last that long.
If the frogs are able to go by.
Hey, they lasted a couple of years.
Did they?
Yeah, they did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. A couple of years. If it's a couple of years, that's all right. Just make it that way. Oh, bless the little axolotl.
Oh,
Kyle.
Yeah, Kyle.
Gorge. All right, I've got a few shout outs for, I've got a shout out for this week actually, because this person deserves a singular shout out for the episode today.
Absolutely.
Because she actually bought us 10 coffees on buymeacoffee.com/2 crime besties, if anybody else would like to also partake. But thank you a million times over to Emma James for her very, very generous contribution to the podcast.
Yes,
so
very appreciated.
We really appreciate it. And she just said, favourite podcast. That was her comment. And I'm like, oh my God, we're someone's favourite podcast. I love that.
That's exciting.
It's actually really humbling, don't you think?
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
I love it.
Cool.
I know when I'm like, we get inbox messages and stuff like that, and I really do my best. I try to respond to every single one that we get, and they're growing the amount we're getting. So, and I write back, and I love when I get back little responses of like, oh my gosh, you answered, or, you know, like, because I think people expect us not to, but I'm like, oh, it's just me at my work.
Yeah.
Like, I might be at my job, like, kind of, I'll just respond to that person quickly. Like,
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, so because we've got to have real lives where we just got to earn money.
Yeah, that's it, unfortunately.
So, yeah.
Oh, the
But
dream.
No,
the dream for this to be a
know.
paid job. That would be amazing.
But absolutely love that people are really enjoying it to that point where they want to contribute. And so thank you very, very, very much.
Yes, thank you. Very much appreciated.
Yeah.
All right, should we get into today's case?
This is a big one.
This is a big one, but it won't be a two-parter.
No.
Because we're trying to keep it pretty high level. The other thing we just wanted to say before we get started about this one is that there is a lot of conflicting information out there. And I think it's by nature of the fact that there are so many podcasts and articles and so much stuff out
Strong
there.
opinions
and
on this.
Exactly. And you can find information to support whatever you want it to support.
Yeah.
But then I think in that the telling of things has gotten twisted over time. So we've done our absolute best to get what we know to be factual. If we get things wrong, we're really sorry. We really have done our best to try and keep this all on track.
Yeah.
So today we are talking about Karla Homolka and Paul Bernardo, also known as the Ken and Barbie doll killers from Canada. From Canada.
Canada, eh? Like, I think this is our first Canadian case too, which is, and I love Canada. So I think Canada's just a beautiful place that, but not only that, like I feel we feel a little bit of kinship between Australia and Canada. So, you know, I think very similar values. I don't know, like that sort of stuff with Canada.
Agree. Like every Canadian I've met has always been such a nice person.
Never met a dickhead Canadian.
Same.
No. Rate them.
Rate
Definitely.
them.
Got quite a few Canadian friends. Some that have moved here permanently, and others that live in Canada. That from growing up and traveling and stuff. Like, every time I met a Canadian traveling, like, they're just always great people
down to earth
and good people that you stayed in touch with. You know, like kind of they were just good people. Good people.
We are going to be talking about a total piece of shit.
Yeah,
Canadian
so we've only got two pieces of shit in this, but and I have to say, like, when you told me the name of this case that we were doing of being Karla Homolka and Paul Bernardo, I was like, oh my God, I don't know this one, you know. But as soon as I went to research it and it came up with Ken and Barbie Killers, I was like, oh, I do know this. And that's all I knew it as. I just didn't know the names of them. That were, like, I've listened to podcasts about them, but clearly hadn't registered their names.
Yeah.
So as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, I know what we're doing. Like, right, I was onto it.
Cool. When I first got into listening to podcasts, specifically true crime podcasts, obviously Serial was the first podcast I listened to.
Yeah.
But then the very next one after I'd finished listening to Serial, the next podcast I listened to was Canadian True Crime. That's the name of the podcast.
Yes.
And this was the first episode she did.
That was her first episode, yeah.
Or first, I think it was a two-parter.
Yeah.
And so, I feel like it's really kind of etched into my memory from just listening to her. And then, anyway, obviously there's lots out there.
I have to say, I know, because in one of her episodes, I think that in those first two episodes, she sort of says something like, "This is my first, you know, be gentle." God, they're bloody good though. For they're being her first two episodes. It blows my mind. How
she's Australian, actually.
Do you know what? And listening to it, and I think it was a re-listen, to be honest. Like, when I was listening to it this time, I have a feeling I had listened to it like a couple of years ago, kind of sort of thing. And I was listening and I'm like, she sounds a bit Australian, not Canadian at times. And I was right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she moved there. I think she married a Canadian.
Right.
And she moved there and
That makes so much sense now because I do remember. I think one day I was in my car and it just flicked on, and I'm like, oh, but I thought I was listening to Canadian true crime, and because I'm like, oh, this is an Australian. What's going on?
Yeah.
And I thought my podcast had flipped to another. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I was onto it.
But worth a listen. I actually
Totally.
really rate her. I think she's really good.
No, I'm blown away. Like, because our first episodes don't sound that good. I don't reckon.
Oh God, no. But I've listened to it. She's done a few, like episodes like we did with our Q&A episode, and she talks about like in her first episode she was recording in her closet.
Yeah, and we talked about that because like trying to get our sound right. We're like, we need to be in like our closets and things.
Yeah,
carpet. We need carpet.
Yeah, we need padded walls for more reasons than one. All right, so. Where do we even start? I'm going to just start with Karla.
Yeah,
so
great.
Karla Homolka was born on the 4th of May in 1970. Her middle name is Leanne. That will come into play a little bit later. She was born in Mississauga, Ontario in Canada, which is near the Niagara Falls region. So absolutely stunning part of the world.
You been there?
No.
Oh, yeah, I have. It's absolutely amazing.
Incredible.
It's
on the list.
Yeah, another spot that comes up is Niagara on the Lake, which is just down from Niagara Falls. And that, honest to God, is one of the most beautiful spots. Oh, it's just spectacular. Anyone who goes to Niagara Falls, take the trip down the road a bit further and go to Niagara on the Lake. So beautiful. Yeah.
Imagine living there, growing up there.
Absolutely stunning.
Gorgeous.
Blows my mind, that place. Loved it.
Karla was born to parents Dorothy Hamalka, and now it's either Karel or Carl. I guess it depends how you want to say it. I guess the anglicised version of his name is Carl.
Yeah.
It's spelt Karel. He was a Czech immigrant, and, as a profession, once they moved to Canada, he was a travelling salesman. Carla used to tell people that he was an art dealer, but what he actually did for work, do you remember back in, I'm going to say it's like the 70s, maybe even, probably in the 70s, those velvet paintings? Like, I reckon everyone had a velvet painting in their house.
No.
Hideous. The most hideous.
Well, as most things were from
gaudy
the 70s.
Shit.
Yeah. Was there orange in it?
Oh, of course, and gold.
And
but
that
I mean,
burnt orange.
The term velvet painting says it all, doesn't it?
70s to boot.
So that was what he did. He went and sold these bloody gaudy paintings around town, but Carla liked to tell people he was an art dealer. Carla's mum, Dorothy, was an administration assistant at a geriatric clinic. So she did most of the, I guess, child rearing because Karel was, often away for work, as is the nature of somebody who's a travelling salesman, I suppose.
But when he was home, he wasn't the nicest of people, was he?
No, he was quite violent and physically and emotionally, verbally abusive. And I believe he had a very tight rein on the purse strings as well. So I think there was some financial abuse going on within the household too.
Yeah.
I mean, that just gives a little bit of an idea of the state of affairs in that household.
So apparently he at one stage had an affair and his wife found out about it, and her way of correcting that and trying to fix that in their marriage was to just invite the affair into the bedroom and have a threesome.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Ew.
So, I mean, it sort of starts that whole idea of what kind of things were happening in that household for what was to come for Carla.
I suppose so, but my fucking God.
Yeah.
Wowza.
Yeah.
Carla had two siblings. So Carla was actually the eldest. Then she had a sibling, another sister named Laurie. She was born in 1971, and a second sister born in 1975 by the name of Tammy Lynn Homolka. Again, will come into play later.
Yeah.
I think not only, sorry, I'm just spinning out about this threesome thing, but I think Karel was also a drunk. And so basically anytime he was at home, he's drinking. He's obviously off fucking... I mean, I knew he'd had affairs. I had no idea they'd invited someone back. She'd invited someone back into the bedroom. To what end? Like, was she just trying to please him?
To please him, I think, yeah.
Okay, so and I guess the girls would have seen that pleasing nature, maybe not necessarily the threesome, but the fact that her mum accepted the
Yeah.
affair and moved on with it
Yeah.
in her own way.
Yeah. That's how what was the way to fix that? Yeah. Was, well, you know, if you're going to have affairs, we'll just bring them home with you rather than have it outside of the home. I think.
Wow. Oh, that blows my mind.
Yeah.
Carla was a very intelligent girl.
Yeah.
She had a high IQ. They say that she had sort of superior intelligence. So
Yeah.
that's a significant
130 sort of stuff.
exactly.
Yeah.
A significant IQ. She was a really good student. Her peers referred to her as a bit of a princess and
Yeah. But also a bully.
yeah, she wasn't. Well, I think it depended on who you were. I think she chose her targets in terms of.
Well, that's a typical bully, isn't
classic,
it? Classic
in terms
bully.
of who she would target in those ways.
Yeah.
She also did some really weird shit as a kid. So she killed her friend's hamster. Now, the way they did this is horrible.
Yeah.
But they basically decided to make a parachute for the hamster and then
Yeah.
throw the hamster out of the second story
Testing the
window.
parachute.
Yeah. So apparently when they did this, the hamster died and the friend was absolutely distraught by this.
Yeah.
Carla, on the other hand, didn't seem to really care.
No.
They then buried the hamster and 2 weeks later, Carla decided to dig it up just to see what had happened to it and how it had decomposed or how much it had decomposed in
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, this is red flag territory, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, she had people described her as sort of having those bully traits, but also lack of empathy, even as a young child. Yeah, so there was sort of these things were coming out in her. She then, as a teenager, started sort of going into sort of a bit goth kind of dark makeup and things like that, and sort of ventured into that sort of territory. Not there's anything wrong with her if that's you're into that sort of thing, but I think she took it to another level. Like
She was
obviously
super into it.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
was also like we're sort of in her high school years now.
Yeah.
She was experimenting with drugs and sex. Her first boyfriend, they had sex really, really quickly.
Yeah. He explains it very differently to her though, the sex and the relationship they had sexually.
Well, she says it was all like BDSM
Massively,
type shit.
like, yeah.
And he was
says
like, no, it was just really
vanilla.
normal sex. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, for your first sexual experience, you're not really out there
No.
BDSMing it up, are you?
Well, I mean, not normal. No, not normally. Like, but maybe for her, I wouldn't be surprised. But then for him to describe it in later on, like to sort of be saying, no, like, I mean, I don't know. What game would he have to lie about or to go along with it or whatever?
That's it.
He very much describes it as a very vanilla
knowing what we
sexual
know
relationship of young teenagers.
Yeah. Knowing
Yeah.
what we know about Carla, I fully believe what he says.
Yeah, well, I believe what he says, but I also would believe what she said in some ways too. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
She also started cutting herself around this time, but
Yes.
she'd only cut herself like fairly enough to make a mark.
She wanted to show people. Yeah, she wasn't really like, she was telling people she wanted to kill herself. And that was what went with this whole goth picture. That's what I mean by she took it to another level. Like she thought she was like, yeah, I don't know, showing something off to people as, look, I wanted to try and kill myself. She didn't really. She was just,
doing it for attention, which I mean,
which
look,
is awful.
that's probably a whole nother
Yeah.
thing we could get into, but it's just something she did.
Yep.
She really developed an interest in animals early on. The hamster situation.
You'll see
really
her
throws
interest
me.
in animals to me is a red flag, and it sounds very altruistic. Like,
Doesn't
I want to
it?
look after animals. She didn't want to look after animals, I don't think.
There was definitely something more
Yeah.
going on there.
Yeah.
While she was at high school, she had a part-time job at a pet type shop.
Yeah.
And then that continued after she finished high school. She then went to work in quite a few, actually. I think 3 or 4 different vet clinics.
Yeah, as a vet assistant.
Yeah. Is that just like a vet nurse? do you
Yeah,
think?
vet nurse. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Interesting. Might just get into a bit of a backstory about Paul.
Yeah,
now.
because I mean, at 17,
Yep.
the two cross paths and
That's
meet.
right.
So we're
maybe
there.
we're there. Maybe we'll start now back.
Yes.
Yeah. So Paul Kenneth Bernardo was born on the 27th of August in 1964 to parents Marilyn Bernardo and Kenneth Bernardo. He was born in Scarborough, Ontario, near Toronto, a suburb of Toronto. And Kenneth was a marble and tile salesman and craftsman. So I think he did a lot of, I don't know, like carving of marble and that kind of thing, but also then did marble for like countertops and things like that. I believe he owned his own business.
Yeah, there was a fair bit of money in the family. They were quite well off. Yeah,
They absolutely were. That was, I think, thanks to Kenneth's parents.
Yeah.
They were very wealthy. I think they were lawyers, and that one was a justice, I think.
Yes,
I believe.
Yeah, they were both lawyers. Now, sorry, you reminded me. Yep.
So there was a fair bit of wealth, like familial wealth within that family.
Yes.
Paul had 2 siblings. So Paul was actually the youngest of his family. He had the middle sister was named Debbie, and then his older brother David. Again, this family is so fucked up. It is not even this. It's actually worse than Carla's family.
Yes, I agree.
Bernardo's dad, so Kenneth, absolute fuckwit that he is.
Actually, wasn't.
No, so not his biological dad. We'll get to that in a sec.
Yeah.
But the father figure of the family, Kenneth, sexually abused his sister, and he would do it in front of other family members. So they'd be sitting at a family dinner table, and he'd be fondling her under the table.
Yeah.
What a piece of shit. Sorry, there's so many pieces of shit in this, actually. We said 2 at the start, but there's so many more.
Absolutely disgusting.
But he also, it also went to full intercourse. It was just the most heinous of abuse against his own daughter.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it extended beyond her. Although
Apparently he did do similar to nieces and cousins and things too, apparently.
Total piece of shit. Was he ever convicted of that?
I don't believe so.
No,
I didn't read anything about it, but it was known.
It was known.
But I don't know that he was. I never actually read that he was ever convicted of any of it. No.
I don't think he was.
No.
I went looking. I couldn't. It's certainly not under his name that I could find.
Yeah.
Unless I don't know if he's. I mean, sometimes when perpetrators are offending against children, sometimes, and in Canada, I think this happens semi-frequently, where they will change the perpetrator's name so that they're not fucking murdered or raped in prison, even though they deserve to be. But I'm not sure. I just never actually saw anything to that.
Yeah.
But as you said, it was known within the family that he was doing it, and fucking nobody did anything about it. No. I don't think.
No.
Oh.
Yeah. But he physically abused his mum as well as and Paul as well. So other members of the family were also, targets of his in other ways, which was awful. He spoke to Paul's mother atrociously. Treated her like absolute shit. But yeah, as he grew up, it was told to Paul eventually that he wasn't actually his biological son. His mum had an affair and fallen pregnant. But that sort of flicked a switch for Paul. And he really just began to treat his mother then as the father in the household treated her, and he spoke to her disgustingly, and he really took a turn from that point. That seemed to be a bit of a trigger for him. Not that I think he was perfect before that, because I think he was a bit of a spoilt brat kind of from what the vibe I could get. But it ramped up his in the home behaviour of quite disgustingly treating his mum, and his disdain then maybe for women in general sort of seemed to kick in.
I think so. He was 16 years old when he found out this information. Yeah. So, I mean, that's a critical point in your life, isn't it? So,
but from all accounts outside of the home, he was like model person. Everyone respected him and thought he
might have
was
been a little charismatic by any chance, Meg?
I think that might be a word I'd use.
Because he absolutely portrayed this kind of image of the perfect young man.
Yes.
And he was very polite, and he was engaging, and he'd, ask people all the right questions and do all of the right things.
He was studying at university.
And he was very attractive by that day's standards. And
I love looking at the photos of the wedding photos, things like that. You have that era, and you're like, I totally see. You can see the fact of people were like, this was Ken and Barbie. They were very attractive people, both Carla and him. Very attractive people for the time. Because you. The hairstyles, the clothing, the poofy, shoulders on the clothes, on the dresses and things. I love that stuff. I love it. But yeah, definitely, by standards of that, they were an attractive couple.
Absolutely.
I think that's where this gets really almost like a bit more awful because they were so normal and so normal looking, you know, that what the persona that of what outwardly who these people were separately before they even met each other, as well as then when they come together, is that they were this beautiful couple who, you know,
And of
lights
course, nobody
shining.
suspects
No.
these gorgeous people to be anything other than what they're putting out there into the world.
Yeah.
I just noted down as well. So, not only was Paul at this time, at the age of 16, finding out his dad isn't his dad, that'd be, you know, that'd be horrible.
Yeah.
But then and you were saying he would abuse his mother and he would call her things like slut, whore, just really degrading things. But she then would actually fire back at him and she called him things like the bastard from hell.
Oh,
and so
wow.
the volatility within that household must have been just mental.
Yep.
Paul's biological father was a man by the name of Bill.
Right.
He was actually Marilyn's first ever boyfriend and the love of her life, but her parents didn't approve of him.
Oh.
And so they made her break up with him, and then she found Kenneth, and because Kenneth came from money, her parents were like, yes, go with him, yes.
Oh.
And then look how that turned out.
So you've got to wonder though, I mean, if he's still the product biologically of those two people. But would he have been different, raised in a different home?
Well, this is nature and nurture shit, isn't it?
Because that psychological side of it just pricks my interest. Oh God.
But then I look biologically at Kenneth's actual biological children, Debbie and David.
Who he targeted too. Like, it's not like he only gave
Absolutely.
shit to David. I mean, clearly the sister particularly copped a lot and they've turned out not to have
they're
done
not
what
exactly perpetrators of these horrific crimes.
Okay.
As a younger, so I think this was sort of, again, around this 16, 17 mark, Paul's behaviour started escalating. So he had pyromaniac inclinations.
Oh, well. So
Surprise.
tick box number 1.
Yep.
Yep, right.
Dark sexual fantasies. He wanted to create a virgin farm where he could breed virgin girls to rape.
Okay.
Yep.
That's a new one.
Yep. That was
A virgin farm.
Yep. I mean, you'd have to be pretty forward thinking, wouldn't you? Because I mean,
That's one way to put it.
You'd be
Are you calling him an entrepreneur?
But you'd be
God,
20
no.
years, you know, off, I don't know, depending on how old the girls are. But I don't know what made him think this. But he actually wrote out a detailed plan somewhere that someone found.
Oh, my
Where
God.
he'd written how he was going to do this.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, he liked them younger and, virgins.
And they had to be virgins. Yep.
So, I mean, oh, God.
He
that's
collected
gross.
pornography around this time as well.
Yeah.
Not your vanilla pornography, though. He liked to see women defecating on other women. That was his particular pornographic type of choice.
I just don't get how that can be. I really don't know.
No, but that was what he liked. And he also really liked watching group sex.
Okay. Yeah, all right. If that's your thing. I can come at that more than I can shitting on each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
He was also, at this time, again, this is another tick for you.
Yeah.
He started being a bit of a neighbourhood peeping Tom.
Yeah. Apparently his dad was too.
Yeah.
Oh, his not biological dad.
Yeah, Kenneth. Yeah.
Yep.
Kenneth was a peeping Tom as well.
Yeah.
Kenneth was actually caught once masturbating out the front of a neighbour, down the side of a neighbour's house, looking at their next door neighbour.
Gross.
The girl, not the mum.
Right.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing. These behaviours to me emulate him, who's not biologically his father,
Exactly. So
but the man who raised him. But
We're talking nurture here, aren't we?
yeah. Interesting. Very
really
interesting.
is.
Yeah.
From the time Paul had girlfriends, and he started, with that when he was in his teens as well, he was physically abusive towards them.
Yeah.
He also, according to two of his very early girlfriends, he only wanted anal sex. He did not want P and V sex at all. And he always wanted to use wine bottles in their sexual play to essentially sodomize his girlfriends with the wine bottles.
Oh.
This then escalated in one of his relationships to strangulation. And at that point, this girlfriend was like, no, I'm out.
Yeah.
And she actually says, I really feel like I escaped
Oh.
an untold or unknown horror from staying with him.
Yeah. Oh, awful.
So he had a few different jobs along the way.
Yeah.
This is all prior to meeting Carla.
Mm-hmm.
He had a paper route as a young kid. He then worked as a security guard and a waiter while he was in university. He became obsessed with self-help books and like those books that sort of to make yourself better. But to what? Like, I don't really understand the motivation because he was like this fucking sexual sadist and he was...
Well, his Bible was American Psycho. That was his favourite book.
Yeah.
I think he read that as a self-help kind of style book almost.
Well, by the nature of what we know happened next, you're probably right.
Yeah.
I think the self-help books actually, like, taught him how to be persuasive because there were things like, you know, how to win friends and influence people, those kinds of books.
Yeah.
And I think he really used them because he was like clearly socially quite fucked up. That was how he learnt to charm people to then get them to do what he wanted them to do.
Because the other way he learnt to do that was through becoming an Amway salesman.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh,
Yeah.
pyramid scheme.
Yeah. But him and his mates from Amway would use those skills of how to sell products, right, at people's doors. They were using them and going out and use that to pick up women at bars. They use those same principles. So, yeah, he was learning how to be a human, like how to be normal and following those rule books.
It wasn't innate. He had to like learn
that. Yeah. But yeah, I thought that was a bit hilarious using those same skills on women in the bars. But and apparently it worked.
Oh, bloody weird. He went to the University of Toronto and he did like a business type degree. He would lie to girls to get them to sleep with him and then they would never last long because A, they'd find out that he'd lied to them and also he obviously wanted the type of sex that maybe those girls didn't necessarily want.
Escalate to a point where they'd be like, oh, God, no. And it would become abusive. Like, and every relationship he had.
But I feel like it happened right from the get-go. It's not like he eased them into it.
No.
Sort of went, oh, this is, you know, what I'm into. Would that be something that would interest you too? No, he's forcing that shit on them.
Yeah, he was. I think that's because he really didn't kind of want someone who was into it. That kind of probably ruined some of the fantasy for him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He became a junior accountant at Price Waterhouse after graduating from university. And so he actually had quite a decent job there and was earning pretty good money and he kind of was setting himself up, you know, for a future.
But in the background of all of that,
on the 4th of May in 1987, he perpetrated his first sexual assault that we know of. This
is the thing. Like, we know that rape is so underreported. It's quite possible there were far more than we're aware of.
I would also argue the fact that these girlfriends that he had prior to this, I mean, what he did to them would constitute rape as well within like, what do you call that? Into a date rape kind of label on it. Whereas I would say back in the 80s, those women would have believed, well, it's not rape because I'm dating him. Yeah,
I think that would have been the mindset. Yeah, so whereas, I mean, we know today that a married man can, you know, it can be a marriage situation can be, it's rape. It's still rape if you say no.
Absolutely.
It's not okay.
No one's ever entitled to have sex with you.
No.
You need to consent to that.
Absolutely. Whereas I think in the 80s that would not have been the mindset of the women in these situations.
I think you're
unfortunately
totally
for them.
Right.
Yeah, but I think reflecting back now, they'd be like, shit, well, yeah, that's what that was. That wasn't consensual. But yeah, so between 1987 and approximately 1991, April-ish, there were 14 women who reported that they had been raped and that were attributed to what they then called the Scarborough Rapist. So, which we will later on find out, like within all this, that was poor Bernardo.
Yeah. So I think the thing that sort of linked a lot of these rapes was not only the types of rape that he perpetrated. It was often sodomy. He never showed his face to his victims.
But he didn't wear a balaclava or anything like that. He didn't cover his face in that sense. No.
But he would take them from behind, essentially.
Yes.
And he would hide in bushes and grab them off the streets. He'd hide behind bus shelters, that kind of thing.
This is the thing, he wasn't breaking and entering into people's homes and doing these. It was out. He would like basically accost them in their backyard or in a park or something. There were outdoor environments where he could find them and get them. Yeah.
Another thing that linked all of those crimes together was the reporting of the women who'd been the victims.
Yeah.
They said things like he used a knife, he was brutal, he wanted to video some of them, power and control during the assaults. He'd demand that they repeated demeaning phrases like, I'm a slut, I'm a whore. The suffering of the victim, the more the victim was outwardly expressing their suffering for the rape, the more aroused he became and the more violent the attack would then be, or the rape would then be.
And the rapes would last anywhere between 30 minutes and an hour.
I saw one that was like 2 hours.
Oh, just like when I heard that at first, that really got me. Like I've not, thank God, been in that situation, but all I can imagine is being in that scenario going, it'll be over soon, right? And for those poor women, that a minute would feel like a lifetime. 45 minutes, an hour, my heart broke. Like,
can you even imagine, like when you're, I don't know, doing something that you don't want to do and you're thinking, yep, it'll all be over soon.
Yeah.
That as you said, a minute feels like an hour.
How those women have then soldiered on after that, my heart breaks. How do you move past an absolute assault like that? Yeah. That's awful.
Horrific. On the 17th of October in 1987, Paul and Carla met. Carla was 17 years old at the time to Paul's 23. Yep. So 6 years different there.
She was at a conference for her. She was working at a pet store at the time. This was pre going into like vet nursery. And she was visiting this conference and so staying at a hotel. So at 17, like that's pretty.
Apparently it was the first time she'd been out of town without her family.
Yeah, right.
And the friend who she went with was a little bit older than her, so kind of took her under her wing a little bit.
Right.
But they had separate rooms at the hotel. They weren't staying in the same room together. Yep. But apparently they decided they'd been at the conference all day. Carla had actually gone back to her room and changed into like track pants or like pajama pants.
Right.
And then they went to the restaurant at the hotel, which was like I can't even remember what it was called, but it was like a fast food type of restaurant that was just attached to
it. But it had a bar.
It had a bar.
Yeah.
And anyway, they've gone down there for dinner, and Paul had actually just recently broken up with a girlfriend, and his friend said to him, come on, let's go out for drinks and dinner. Yeah. And they ended up at the same hotel, restaurant and bar.
Yeah.
Apparently when Paul and Carla met, it was
immediate.
Like the attraction was lust at first sight.
Yeah.
According to Carla's friend.
From both sides.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. There was an immediate chemistry. They were both seemingly infatuated with one another right from the get-go. So much so that approximately 1 hour after meeting, they were having sex in Carla's hotel room.
Yeah.
Yeah. Straight from that point, I guess their relationship just continued from there.
Yeah, they just literally fell straight into a dating scenario and were going out. Yeah, yeah.
One of the things that Paul didn't like about the whole situation, though, was that he found out early on in their relationship that Carla wasn't a virgin.
Yes, and he really was not okay with like that. He made that a deal, a big deal. Like, yeah. And she felt bad about.
Yeah.
I mean, that she couldn't give him that, and there was no turning back time to that. Like,
that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, unbelievable.
But that was it was something that was brought up a lot. Yeah.
Carla has later reported that early on in their relationship, Paul's sexual fantasies were made very well known to her.
Yeah.
It started out where basically he wanted her to be his sex slave and do anything he wanted without question. She sort of complied with that right from the get-go.
Yeah.
He in particular liked it when they played out a scenario of her being like a subservient French maid in the bedroom. So, I mean, look, at this point, she states that it was all consensual and she was happy to go along with it.
Yeah.
But it was really the start of something that became a lot more, I don't know, extreme. Is that the right way to say it?
Yeah. Yeah, I reckon. Yeah.
Carla introduced him, I mean, she's 17 years old. She's introduced him to her parents. And I think at the start, the fact that there was a 6-year age difference, especially from a 17-year-old to a 23-year-old, they weren't immediately enamored by him, but I think they softened to him pretty quickly.
Pretty quickly. And he became like, someone they really liked and wanted Carla to be with. And because as we say, outwardly, Ken and Barbie, they were like the perfect couple.
Yeah.
They look beautiful together.
And Paul charmed her parents.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Big time.
Big time.
Yeah.
Around the time of their meeting too, so this was probably about 6 months after the Scarborough rapes had commenced. There was a slight lull for a few months in the Scarborough rapes. We now know, obviously, given the timeline of all of that.
Yes.
Around this time as well, Carla's friend, so this isn't the friend who was with her at the hotel, this was a school friend, was over at her house and she found a list on Carla's desk and she just had a bit of a read of it while Carla wasn't in the room.
Yeah.
And it said, healthy eating, personal hygiene, never let anyone know our relationship is anything but perfect. Don't talk back to Paul. Be a perfect girlfriend to Paul. If Paul asks for a drink, bring him one immediately. Remember you're stupid. Remember you're ugly. Remember you're fat. I don't know why I tell you these things because you never change. So
who wrote that?
Carla wrote that to herself.
To herself? Jeez. Yeah. It's awful.
It's horrible. She was 17 years old.
Yeah.
And this is in the infancy of their relationship.
Yeah.
She's already feeling like this. Like he's making her feel like she's stupid, fat, ugly and needs to bring him, like she's already nervous about not bringing him a drink immediately when he asks for one or demands one.
Oh, yuck.
It's so fucking yuck.
Yeah.
So yuck.
Yep. But come December 24th, 1989, and Paul does propose marriage and Carla absolutely is so ecstatic. Like this is what she wants. They're very happy. There's been moments obviously in this relationship where it's been bumpy and things have already there's been a number of occasions where Paul has sort of threatened to leave and things like that, but Carla is very keen to keep this relationship on track and to keep him, even though from that list you can tell. I mean, there's quite a bit of control and quite a bit of abuse within this relationship, well and truly.
Prior to them getting engaged as well.
Yeah.
Paul actually had several relationships with other women.
Yes.
And so he was having affairs all the time.
Yeah.
Paul started commenting very early on in their relationship about Tammy, Carla's sister, and specifically that she's a virgin.
She's a virgin, yeah.
He actually demanded of Carla that Tammy remained a virgin. So, number one, it's actually none of Carla's business.
No.
None of Paul's business, quite clearly, but also none of Carla's business what Tammy chooses to do or not do with her body and with her virginity. But, he says to Carla, no, you need to make sure she remains a virgin.
Oh, God. Yeah. So, bringing that up with her already of, like, flagging that she's got, like, Tammy's got something that you couldn't give me.
That's it. Yeah. By late 1988, so this is about a year before they get engaged, a police hotline is set up because the Scarborough rapes actually start to increase again and they're actually becoming more and more prolific.
And we should say too, I guess, it is unknown if Carla knew he was going out and raping women. Like we don't still know whether she knew that at this point.
Yeah. I suspect, this is my gut feeling, and I only know this from what we've been researching this week. So, this is just a gut feeling for me.
Yeah.
I feel like at this point she didn't know.
Yeah.
But I feel like by the time they were engaged, I think she knew.
Yeah. I think if she didn't know he was the Scarborough rapist necessarily.
Yes.
But I think she would have had an understanding of his needs and that he was going out of like their relationship to fulfill that, and that probably equated to doing that sort of thing. So yeah, I think
fully
that's really where her head was at of her knowledge. Yeah.
So in 1988, November of 1988, a task force was set up to catch this rapist.
Yeah.
And at around this time, the 11th victim actually sees his face, and she's interviewed by police. Thank God she came forward very quickly. She was interviewed by police, and they got a sketch artist to do a composite sketch of him. And oh my God, it looks so much like him. Like bloody hats off to her, because she didn't seem for long.
No.
It's not like she was facing him the whole time.
No.
She just caught a few glimpses of him.
Yeah.
And she was able to get like a really, really accurate representation of him.
Yes.
So impressive.
That's beyond.
Especially like in the trauma of all that, for her to have, I'm so impressed by this.
Because as we see later on in this same story, like some people get a car wrong.
Yeah.
You know, let alone like trying to be able to, you know, put together a face, and the detail of a face just blows my mind.
Same.
Yeah.
The police disseminate the image everywhere. It's in newspapers, it's on TV, it's everywhere you can possibly think. And 16,000 tips came in over the next few weeks after this image has gone out. Mm-hmm. Friends, a couple of friends, and a number of previous girlfriends of Paul suspect that it may be him. Mm-hmm. And so I think 2 people or 3 people maybe reported it to the police hotline. And eventually the police got around to just going to Paul to say, hey, your name's kind of come up. Yeah. And he's like, I think I look like that photo too. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, in the police interviews of this, like he's so casual around of like, you know, they sort of say, what do you think you've been brought in today? And he's like, because I clearly look like the picture.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Isn't it funny?
Yep.
Yeah.
They don't have any suspicions of him whatsoever.
No, but they do take a DNA sample.
Because he offers one. He's like, go right ahead, take a DNA sample, it's fine.
Yeah, like, you know.
And then because he thought, and quite rightly, he was right to think this, by being so casual about it and offering up his DNA.
But also DNA, it was so new.
It was new, but if they really thought it, they would have prioritised it.
Absolutely.
But they didn't they didn't think they'd need to.
But it was so new, I think.
He also socially manipulated this situation.
Yes, but in his arrogance of it too, like it's like, well, you know, our DNA's, you know, like I don't think he probably had a full understanding the DNA would actually link him either. Like with it being such a new technology, I don't know that he actually really understood that it would get him.
Yeah.
Like,
it was 24 months after, or 26 months, I think it was actually, after that DNA sample was taken, that they even got to testing it.
Yeah.
So, and we'll get to the results of that in a minute.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So, as you said, December 24th, 1989, they get engaged.
Not long after that, though. So he loses his job at Price Waterhouse.
Yes.
And so what does he do? Like to start making money? Smuggling tobacco in from
like
the
illegal
border.
Cigarettes, but like I didn't really understand how you would make money doing that. Like, so are we talking from Mexico or are we talking from America?
No, like because he's Canada, so I'm thinking, I'm not sure. I just assumed Mexico.
It must have been because there's no way. I don't know. It was tobacco.
But he was definitely smuggling tobacco. But you know mainly why? What he wanted to make the money for though?
Oh, what?
He wanted to be a rapper.
Oh yes. Oh my God. Oh.
That cracked me up.
Yep.
I was like, oh, mate, his favourite person on the planet was Vanilla Ice.
Oh, ice, baby. Dun, 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 dun. I mean, I love me a bit of Vanilla Ice, don't get me wrong, but for fuck's sake, who did he think he was?
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, yuck.
Yuck.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And he probably thought he was so good
Oh,
too.
God, he would have thought he was like hotter than Vanilla Ice.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, oh, yeah, I could do that. No worries.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Yuck.
Oh, God. Oh,
I think it's probably worth just now introducing Tammy's work friend.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Sorry, not Tammy, Carla's work friend. So Carla met this girl in summer of 1989 when she was working at one of the vet clinics.
Yeah.
And we only know this girl to be Jane Doe.
Yeah.
We don't actually know her name to this day. Mm. They met at the vet clinic and Paul seemed to really like this girl. She was a bit younger than Carla.
And virgin.
And a virgin. Paul took quite the liking to her. Mm-hmm. They invited her over for a dinner and spaghetti bolognese, was it? Something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And they crushed up some Valium.
From her work.
That
She
Carla
stole
had
it from
stolen.
work.
Yep.
Yeah.
And popped it in the spaghetti, but didn't quite get the dosing right. So,
Well, because she's used to giving it to dogs and cats. Like,
but
who are a
surely
bit
she
smaller
would know the
than
calculation
humans.
of, like, in terms of kilograms and dosages. But I mean, I guess she's not a vet.
She's not a doctor. Like, you know, she's
Yeah.
not. She's the nurse, and probably with that side of things, she's administering whatever she gets told to administer.
True.
I don't know to what level her
Whether she ever
understanding
had
of
to
it was.
calculate anything,
Yeah, I'm
maybe.
not sure. Yeah, so maybe that's where that went a bit awry for them.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So she passed out for about a minute. They commenced well, when I say they, I think in this instance, because it was on video,
Yeah.
so we know that only Paul had started to, well, what was going to be a rape, but it
Yeah.
actually didn't end up going anywhere because she woke up, but she
Yeah.
had no memory of anything that had happened. So they just went,
No.
oh, maybe you had a little too much to drink.
Yeah, they just sort of
and-
turned it into like, oh, we thought, you know, like, I'm getting off you, but like, you know, because
Yeah.
I thought there was something wrong with you. And
Yeah.
no, it's all right, it's all good. Like,
And this girl didn't really think anything more of it because it all kind of made sense to her what they told.
yeah, yep.
Okay.
Oh gosh,
So
yeah,
Paul moved in with the Homolkas after losing his job at Price Waterhouse because he fucking couldn't afford to live anywhere else. And they accepted him quite readily. I think previous to this, he'd stayed on weekends and stuff. So I guess they thought they knew what they were getting by letting him move in there more permanently.
Well, didn't they just?
He did
awful.
become more controlling of Carla once he moved in, or I guess he had more access to her, so the controlling behaviour was just all the time as opposed to when he saw her.
Yeah.
He would choose her clothes for her, which I just find that so fucking disgusting. When men choose clothes for women, I'm like, what's that about? That is,
No.
I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
No.
I mean, not only that, if Peter chose clothes for me, I mean, he's got taste buds in his
sorry,
arsehole,
don't-
so
yeah,
I just wouldn't, I wouldn't even go there.
No, don't.
Yeah, but I mean, Carla went with it, and he would also.
I think she liked it. That's yeah.
Yeah, he would also tell her exactly what to eat, and I'm talking exactly.
Oh, really?
He would say to her, "You're having a ham and lettuce sandwich for lunch. You're having this. You're having that."
Oh God,
She couldn't even choose what she ate.
that's awful.
Does this play into that? I wonder if this played into that bedroom,
Domineering
like
kind of-
BDSM type of thing, which I think they partook in.
Yeah. Yeah,
where
maybe
that comes outside of the bedroom where
that
you're
she's
then
the
telling somebody what to
submissive.
eat and drink and wear.
Where to shit, obviously.
He also would tell her what to think. Yeah, probably where to shit on his chest. No. And would also tell her what to think. So if she had an opinion about something that he didn't like, well, then he just sorted that out
Yeah.
quick smart, didn't he?
Yeah.
He'd keep her in check by calling her fat
Yeah.
and ugly. And she just complied with all of his sexually deviant behaviour.
Yeah. And but again, it's still to this point, even she was still reminded very much so that she had not given him her virginity.
But I think that's why she did all of this other stuff. She was
yeah.
trying
She's
to
trying
prove
to make up
to
for
him
that.
and make up for it.
Which
exactly.
then to make up for it. So yeah, this is when she decides to offer up her own younger sister's virginity.
Because that's hers to give.
Oh.
Like, for fuck's sake.
Well, it was hers to make sure she kept,
Yes.
according to him.
Yes.
And so now she decided that she would offer it up to him.
So she actually gifted him, like it was hers to give.
As a Christmas present. What the fuck?
What the actual fuck?
Yeah.
So let's get into what happened that night.
So poor Tammy Hamalka. Yeah. So she was 15 at this
Yes,
point?
she was 15, yep.
So Tammy, they were at Carla's parents' house. It was just before Christmas. They're having a Christmas party at the Hamalka household on December 23rd, 1990. And as everyone else sort of started to head off for the night, like finish up the party, Carla and Tammy and Paul were left for the evening. And I mean, as any 15-year-old, you know, with an older sister and her boyfriend, you think you're pretty cool hanging out with them, and you're going to if they tell me to do something, I'm going to do that. Like,
And they were offering her alcohol.
drinks.
So
Yeah.
they were having eggnog spiked with rum.
Yeah.
They were having other cocktails and yeah,
And,
I'd probably
you
go
can
with it too if I was 15.
Oh, and you can imagine Tammy. I mean, as we said, Paul was a very attractive man. Like, you can imagine this 15-year-old being a little bit like starry-eyed with, your sister's, your big sister's boyfriend showing a little bit of an interest in you. You sort of would feel a bit special, and like that would be really lovely that he was spending
Paying
time
so much
with
attention
her.
to her.
But the reasons for that were just gross. So Carla had also taken from her workplace some drugs, some tranquilizers, and they were spiking her drinks with that.
Yep. So again, it was Valium
Yep.
that they were spiking her eggnog with. But on top of that, so just to sort of set the scene just really quickly.
Yeah.
Apparently the house was on a main level. That was where all the living spaces were. Then there was a basement.
That's so like American Canadian, isn't it, to have basements? Like, we don't have basements in Australia.
But in the basement they had like a TV room type setup and a bedroom down there. But most of the family actually slept on the first floor.
Yeah.
So there were sort of two floors
levels.
between where Tammy, Carla and Paul were hanging out and where the rest of the family were upstairs asleep in bed.
Yep. So you can imagine that noise would not be travelling, not whatever was going on down there. Yep.
So Carla had taken the Valium from work, and apparently she used to do this by ordering it under a vet's name, and then so no one would know that she was particularly being the one that ordered it. It'd come in, she'd pocket it, take it home.
God.
She also took halothane, which is an anaesthetic drug. It's meant to be like a vapor.
Yeah, you have to use like a vaporizer, aren't you, to like administer it, which I'm sure that's what they would do in the vet clinic with the animals. They would put it in the, a breathing apparatus.
Yep.
But she didn't do it that way.
No, she soaked a cloth in the halothane and held it over Tammy's mouth and nose, and it did. It knocked her out.
Oh,
I mean,
big
on top
time.
of that, they'd also given her so much Valium and then also a lot of alcohol.
Yeah.
So just think of this absolute cocktail of stuff going on.
Yes.
They lured her down to the basement saying, yeah, let's watch a Christmas movie together.
Yeah.
In the video, now I've only read transcripts of the video. I believe you can actually find audio of these videotapes.
Yeah, only audio.
If you want to. I chose not to.
I chose
because
not
I'm
to go
like,
anywhere near it.
There's
read
been
it,
and it was bad
court
enough to read
hearings
it.
to destroy it all, because it is awful.
This wasn't the first time that Paul had videotaped an attack, but it is the first time that the attack escalated to what ended up being murder.
Yeah.
So what they did was they've knocked Tammy out. On the video, Paul says, "Here we go, keep her down." Carla at this point is holding Tammy down. I'm guessing just in case she wakes up.
Because that's what happened the one time prior with Jane Doe.
Yes.
Yeah. But she, oh God, with how much drugs they put on her system.
Paul commits a sexual assault on Tammy. Again, this is all caught on video. There's no conjecture around this. And then he tells Carla to do the same.
Yeah.
And she does.
Mm-hmm.
She sexually assaults her own sister.
Yeah. Oh. Absolutely. Yeah.
Because they'd given Tammy such a cocktail of drugs, and also her being so young and everything, Tammy actually ended up overdosing on everything she'd been given, and she vomited and then inhaled her own vomit, so she aspirated. And they could, obviously Paul and Carla could tell that she was not breathing. They tried to revive her.
Did try to revive her, if there's something in that. I don't know.
But then...
And they did call an ambulance.
Eventually.
But
so what they did first was, so they've obviously realised we can't get her back here.
No.
So they clean her all up. They change her clothes.
Mm-hmm.
They change the blanket that was underneath her. And Carla goes and tries and puts that in the washing machine. By this stage, they haven't even woken up Carla's parents yet.
No one's woken up.
They dial 911. Is 911?
I don't know if that's a Canadian
I was
number or
just
not.
about to say, no, because everything I've read, they say they dialed 911.
Might be.
Maybe it is.
I wouldn't be shocked.
I actually don't know. But anyway, it would make sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
The ambulance comes and they actually end up taking Tammy to the local hospital, and Tammy later on is unfortunately pronounced deceased
And
once
very
she's there.
quickly, it's deemed an accidental death in that they assume she's, had a couple of drinks. And like Carla and Paul like admit to the fact, we did give her a couple of drinks, they do admit to some of this stuff in terms of we gave her a couple of drinks and, and she's vomited and choked on her own
And
vomit.
Carla,
Like just kind of, that's the only part of the story that's kind of attached to it.
Carla and Tammy's mum and dad kind of chalk it up to, oh my God, this is an absolutely tragic accident of a girl who was just experimenting with some alcohol.
Yeah.
The police do question Paul and Carla about, so when they held the halothane-soaked rag over Tammy's mouth and nose, it actually burnt a mark, and you can see photos of the mark if you look it up online. It burnt a mark into her face, and the police were like, well, what's this from? And they said, we had to drag her along the carpet, face down, I don't think so, but anyway, into the bedroom where there was better light so we could perform CPR. Fuck off.
And it doesn't
and the
look
police
like
were
a
like,
carpet burn.
Oh, okay. Oh,
But
does not
they
look
just
like a
immediately go,
carpet burn.
it's a carpet burn. Like you'd think that at some point in an autopsy situation that someone would have gone, well, that's not a carpet burn. It does not look like a carpet burn. It looks like a chemical burn.
It looks like a chemical burn because it is a chemical burn.
I don't know that stuff, but I look at that and go, there's no.
But you know what a carpet burn looks like as well. We've all had a carpet burn.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, it's not a carpet burn.
Nope.
So, I mean, I think the cops have dropped the ball there massively, which is pretty shit. But that's what it got ruled was an accidental death.
The police did, search the house and have a look around and all of that sort of stuff. And when they were looking in Carla's bedroom, and you can see this on the police videotape of the night. So they've just done a videotape around, I guess, just in case this did go any further. They've done all the right things and were starting to collect all of the evidence.
Yeah.
And apparently in that video, you can see a videotape on Carla's desk in her bedroom. So they'd had the wherewithal to, prior to calling 911 as well, to take the videotape out of the video camera. But they only just put it in Carla's bedroom. But the police never looked at it or anything.
Yeah.
I guess they would have thought it was like someone's recorded. I don't know what shows were on in the
I wonder if
late
it would be
80s.
different today in terms of, I guess, technology and the way they would file information around cases, that it would flag that, Paul Bernardo's come in as to be questioned around the Scarborough rapist because he looks like the image. I wonder whether that would trigger something today, like when he's brought in to talk. We talked to you about a 15-year-old girl who, rape was not on their list of, you know what I mean? Like what they didn't actually in all of this somehow in an autopsy, they did not flag that she had been raped.
They didn't do a rape kit on her.
No, they wouldn't have done. I wouldn't have thought to have done a rape kit when they think it's a girl who's had a few too many drinks, vomited, But you would think that, I don't know, in an autopsy they would kind of question things.
I did look at this in terms of why didn't he get flagged at this point? Because, as you said, he'd been questioned by police, but unfortunately it was a different jurisdiction and they didn't share information back then.
That's why I wonder whether if today
in,
those things would have been shared across,
I think
kind
for
of thing.
Sure it would have been.
And,
with social media, with even just the way media reports things these days, I don't think there would have been any way that he would have gotten away with this at this point. But apparently the police officers at Carla's house did search on their whatever they could search on their system. They looked up Carla, they looked up Paul, no red flags.
Right.
Had they just gone to the next jurisdiction over in Toronto, they would have actually seen that Paul had obviously been
called
questioned.
in for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Whether that would have changed anything, don't know.
It's hard to know. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so not long after this incident with Tammy, which, I mean, what was really shocking, I think, and the family even sort of flagged this in terms of the family were absolutely distraught about Tammy's death. It really knocked them. But it was really, the family started noticing very quickly, like, Tammy and Paul are just moving on. They're just planning their wedding. Like, they weren't grieving her. Like, Carla would get shitty with her family for not wanting to plan this wedding and be happy for them because they were grieving for their daughter, or sister, which is awful. Like they had no wherewithal, that empathy, I guess, where, that Carla lacks.
And I think that started straight away after she died. It wasn't like they didn't even seem to have a period of mourning.
No.
Some really creepy shit happened at Tammy's funeral, though.
Yeah, all right.
So Paul and Carla, obviously, they're there, they're front row. They had an open casket for Tammy, and Paul was seen stroking Tammy's hair in the casket.
Ew.
He also put a photo of himself and Carla in the casket.
No.
And a letter. So it was their wedding invitation, but apparently there was a letter in it as well. And the only reason we know all of this, I mean, the stroking of the hair was cited by multiple people, but in terms of what he put in the casket was unknown to Carla and Tammy's parents. But later on, again, we will come to this, but later on they ended up having to exhume Tammy's body, and that's when they found that Paul had put these things into her casket. So he buried her with a photo of himself.
Oh, that is disgusting.
Fucking piece of shit.
Oh, like, let's continue the abuse into her death.
Yep.
Oh, what an evil piece of shit. God.
Okay.
All right. Well, so we don't know an exact date of this next incident, but unfortunately, the person we met earlier, who's known as Jane Doe, since that was unsuccessful the last time, Carla takes it upon herself again to invite her out to go shopping and do all these things, girly time, and then have her over again for dinner. And once again, this time they are successful in their assault of her. They do drug her, etc. But they don't kill her. She survives that. I don't think she was aware of anything that went on. She was staying the night, like that was always the plan. So from the assault overnight, which it involved all sorts of, it went on for hours that they assaulted her. Again, videotaped it. She obviously then woke up the next morning having no knowledge whatsoever of what has occurred to her overnight, and went home. And so poor Jane Doe, but fortunately survived the assault. Awful.
Yep.
Ugh.
This is just now obviously really incited further desires in Paul, and Carla just wanted to please him.
So the videotapes of Jane Doe's assault, again, it's very clear that that Carla is partaking in this, not being coerced.
She perpetrates the rapes as well.
Yeah.
It's just horrible.
Absolutely.
So we then come to another victim. Oh, okay. So Leslie Mahaffey.
Yeah. On June 14th, 1991, they I think Leslie was coming home from a friend's place. She was walking home from her being at a friend's.
Yep.
I believe, and Carla and Paul were in the car, and I think they coaxed her over, offering her a cigarette or something.
So the way I understand this one,
maybe that was the other one, so maybe got confused between the two. But
oh no, but this one I think so. Leslie had actually been at a friend's wake, so she'd she'd actually had a friend pass away. I think from natural causes. Like there was nothing sort of necessarily, not sinister there, but a horrible situation. But her mum had said to her, you need to be home by curfew, which was say 10 o'clock.
Yes.
She then gets home and her mum's locked her out of the house.
Yeah, so she's only 14.
Like, she's 14. Her mum's locked her out of the house and be like, nope, I've told you to be home.
Curfew's
I mean,
hit.
this is the 80s. Early 90s. But,
the same deal.
I don't know, different... whatever.
Yeah.
That's what her mum's decided to do. So Leslie was actually sitting on the front stoop of her house.
Well, she'd rung a friend of hers to say, can I come to your place because I can't get into the house? And for whatever reason, the friend had said, no, you can't come here.
Well, maybe their mum was like, no, you can't have a friend coming over at 11 o'clock at night because I think it was quite late.
Yeah. But so she was kind of stuck, what to do. So she was just hanging around. So then Carla and Paul have
Paul finds her. So he's like coasting around the streets trying to find. I think he's looking for someone to find.
So this one Carla didn't sort of bring to him.
No, because he got home and he was like, hey, hun, look what I found.
Oh, gross.
Yep.
But she would have been happy about that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, well, she did all the things that she'd done previously with her own sister and then with Jane Doe as well.
Exactly. Oh.
In the videotape for this one, which is quite... again, I've only read transcript, but it's so fucked up. He says to her, so as in Paul says to Leslie, the next 2 hours are going to determine what I do to you. Right now, you're scoring perfect, because at the start, she was very submissive to because I guess as a victim, how would you know how to act?
Oh.
She just obviously at the start decided to go with it. Mm-hmm. They're then perpetrating horrific acts on her, and it then led to they were sodomizing her, and this caused her a lot of pain. And in the video, she's begging Bernardo to stop. She's begging Paul to stop. He was actually sodomizing her with his hands while Karla was tying her hands, as in Leslie's hands, up with twine so that she couldn't push him away and stop him from doing whatever the fuck it was that he wanted her to do. Unfortunately for Leslie, I think, as well, they had blindfolded her, but during the perpetrating of the sodomy, her blindfold actually fell off and she saw them.
And that they say that this is kind of what then meant that, like with Jane Doe, they didn't kill her, but she was knocked out for the whole thing, Jane Doe, where they never knocked her out with drugs or anything. So there is a difference in this assault, and I guess that's where like Paul had that fascination with, he wanted reaction from the victim, and he maybe didn't get that through the Jane Doe assault, which is just awful. But that's where he's moved to, no, I want this one awake. But then, with the slip of the mask, that means that she's seen them. And so that sort of becomes the motive of why they've then moved to murder her.
Yeah. So they gave her a lethal dose of Halcyon, which is another drug that Carla got from the vet clinic. Carla says that Paul strangled her, although there's no evidence to say that that's actually what happened.
No,
so they think
but that's
she actually
because of
died
what he
of
did
the
to the
overdose.
body. Like,
exactly.
I mean, you wouldn't maybe know if he did.
But yeah, I guess they can't prove it.
Because there's certainly in the rapist situation, he definitely strangled women.
Yes.
So that was definitely an MO for him anyway. Yeah.
But I guess they can't prove it because what they ended up doing with her body. So she died.
Yeah.
And they cut up her body into, was it 30 pieces?
Something like that.
Something like that. A lot of pieces.
It was a lot of
and
pieces.
Encased them in concrete, in cement.
I really want to know how and where they did this. In like that, there's nowhere you can find that. But it does floor me. I don't know, like.
Apparently, each block weighed up to 90 kilos, which for our American friends is 200 pounds.
So
each
how are
block.
they getting that?
I think there were 30. I actually haven't written down how many there were.
It would
That's
be an
just
awkward
from
thing
memory,
to carry as well then at 90 kilos to lift into a car, or because they go and dump it in Gibson Lake, these pieces, which just, oh God, it just floors me. Where did they plan this out and have concrete on hand? And
they didn't. They found the receipts in the when this all came to the fore. He kept a lot of trophies, Paul.
Yeah.
And one of the trophies they found in relation to this case was he'd actually kept the receipts from buying the concrete, and he bought it the day she died.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So there was no
forethought in that sense,
and maybe they didn't know they were going to kill her. No, I don't know. I really don't know. Her body washed up ashore on the day that Carla and Paul got married.
Yeah, so they got married in
the 29th of June 1991.
Yep, they got married on the beautiful Niagara-on-the-Lake, where it's stunning. And this is what the contrast of these two scenes. It really makes me feel a bit ill. They're at this lavish, they had a very lavish wedding. They were, left their ceremony in a horse-drawn carriage. And if I can just set the scene of Niagara-on-the-Falls, it is one of these most stunning, quaint villages. It is really gorgeous. I can just imagine.
Tranquil.
So tranquil. The water you can hear all the time, like in the background, because it's a very fast-flowing river. It's just the most, it looks like you've gone back in time. Like it is just gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous.
And then
not far away,
18 kilometres away,
is Gibson Lake, where some fishermen, it was a very well fished area. There were people out who have found these cement blocks washing up on shore with bodies in it of a 14-year-old girl. And these two scenes are linked. Oh,
Have you seen the photos of Paul and Carla's wedding? That like their wedding photos.
oh,
It's very late 80s, early
oh,
90s, isn't
big
it?
time. The hair, big
The
dress.
baby's breath, the big
yeah.
poofy shoulders.
It's literally what you'd think of exactly like, but that's the thing. For the time, it
Oh,
was a
high fashion.
stunning couple. You know, it was it in a bit wedding. And you can just imagine that bloody horse-drawn carriage trotting off with the two of them. Fuck me. Like, yeah, now we look back on it and go, oh.
And 2 weeks later,
Yeah.
2 weeks before that, they'd been murdering a girl,
very young girl.
a little girl.
Yeah. And unfortunately, like her body, washed up and they weren't able to identify it, very quickly because it was so.
They ended up finding an orthodontic appliance in one of the cement blocks, and that's actually how they identified her.
Yeah. Awful.
Oh, just horrible.
Yep.
All right, next victim.
Oh, well, this is it. We go into next victim, which, I mean, it's nearly a year later. There is a gap in there with me. I mean, this must have sort of, I don't know, quenched something in them for a little while, but not entirely.
Yeah, so on April 16th in 1992, the murder of Kristen French takes place. Mm-hmm. So they were obviously out looking for something because they were essentially cruising the streets, as you were saying before. They were together in their car. We'll get to the car in a second.
Yep.
And they decided it was Carla's decision to go past this particular Catholic school, noting that there'd be schoolgirls around, which is obviously what really got them going. And they came across 15-year-old Kristen French, who was walking home from school.
Yeah.
They pretended like they were lost, and apparently Carla got out of the car with a map and was like, oh, we're lost, we're visiting my parents, they've just moved here, can you please help me find blah, blah, blah. Being a lovely girl that Kristen was, she's like, oh, yeah, of course I can help you. And with that, they've shoved her into their car. Apparently, Carla sat behind her and held her hair so tight she couldn't move from behind.
Oh, God.
And that's how they restrained her.
But a number of people witnessed this occur, her
This is
being
what gets
brought into the
me.
car, and who were then attempted to identify the car, the vehicle that this young girl was being dragged into by two adults, but didn't go to help.
Yeah.
That floors me.
Well, they didn't go to help, nor did they actually report it to police until they saw that there was a missing persons report the following day.
Yeah.
It's bloody weird.
Oh.
Also, like, it was such a frenzied kind of
sounds to me,
attack.
when they did describe it to police, it's like, this was not a, oh, look, we've maybe misunderstood what's going on there. Like a bit of a,
It's her parents and she's been naughty or something. No.
It was a full-blown attack
her
on this girl.
shoe was left behind.
Yeah.
They found her shoe at the scene the next day.
Driven off without, like, I don't know. Like,
Come on.
Yeah.
If you see something,
Say
say
something.
something.
But this poor girl, I mean, she was assaulted for a few days. It wasn't, I mean, we already spoke about how lengthy Paul would assault women for, in that there were hours. This now moved to another level, again, escalating, that they assaulted her for a few days. They had her kidnapped in their house and constantly were torturing, sexually assaulting and videotaping all of this that was going on, and they were both involved in it well and truly. Just absolutely awful. That poor girl, just disgusting.
Again, they videotaped a huge portion of this, all of the goings on here.
Yeah, the only thing with this is that, thank God, to be honest, they didn't cut her body up when they did murder her. She was intact. So there was evidence that she was strangled to death. That was the cause of death. But she was just left in a ditch. And I believe that she was there for almost a week. I want to say it was like 5-6 days between when her body was dumped and when her body was found.
Just before dumping her, though, they murdered her, and then the following night they did this over the Easter weekend,
right?
And they put her body in their basement while Carla's family came over to their place for Easter's Sunday dinner.
Yep. Oh God,
with a dead body,
dead
like
body
in the
downstairs.
basement.
I think that they would get off on that.
But
though,
I think that was
I
the
think that would be they would
motivation.
love that because it was like we did this and it would bond them more. Ugh, gross.
Absolutely
yeah.
gross. I think around this time, Carla and Paul. So when Kristen's body was found, Carla and Paul were actually on like a delayed honeymoon of sorts. They were actually in Hawaii when her body was found.
Yeah.
And so they would have been, I would imagine, reveling in that from overseas.
Yeah.
From over in Hawaii, having a grand old time.
Cheers. Ew. Yeah, April 30th, 1992, her body was found. Devastating.
So sad.
In 1992, though, also a few months later, the relationship really became another level of volatile. And it was the first attempt ever of Carla trying to leave the relationship. So June 19th, 1992, she did sort of report some violence against her from Paul, and she did try to leave him, but he threatened to expose her role in her sister's death, and that's what kept her in the relationship. This is a similar time as to probably later that year actually was when finally the DNA that Paul had taken, it started to get processed. Yeah. So it was only infancy stages though still, because it was DNA testing back in the very early 90s. It's still, very infancy stage. So
it also took forever.
So I'm talking December 1992. They've finally started processing it. So it's still not there yet. It went into the system. There was a massive backlog of DNA testing to be done. And that was just, as we said, it wasn't prioritized in any way, but it was finally starting to get tested. But then in January of 1993, not long after, a really vicious attack from Paul on Carla occurred with a flashlight. He had attacked her, leaving her with a couple of black eyes.
And actually, like, one of her eyes was partially dislocated.
Yeah, it was a really hardcore, vicious attack.
Yeah.
So she actually filed charges against him for this attack. But she, and actually in that attempt of leaving, she actually tried to find the videotapes to take them with her, because I think she was like, he's going to hold that over me if I leave, and this is my one I'm going to go. So she tried to take them, but she couldn't find them anywhere. So I think that was another pull back into the relationship. If she wasn't able to take those tapes with her, then she knew he could. But I mean, the thing is, showing those tapes, I mean, it's going to show him up too. But I don't know where her head was at with that. I mean, he's going to show who he himself was as well, wasn't he, by giving them to anybody?
Yeah, but I just wonder, because, look, this is where I find this case really kind of tough, and it pulls me in two different directions. I have no doubt in my mind that Carla was a perpetrator of these crimes, and she went along with it all. I think had she not met Paul, she wouldn't have necessarily become a rapist and a murderer. And I think
I listened to a psychologist talk about this specifically. Okay. So Dr. Rachel Tolles. Now she said, like, she has not done therapy with Carla. She's not assessed her. She can't diagnose her. However, from the childhood descriptions of who she was, and those sorts of things that you can, like, which are genuinely who this person was growing up, and the terms being used around that she had no empathy, that she had bullying behaviour, these other aspects of her personality, she was fairly convinced of the fact that she could have a diagnosis of narcissistic personality disorder and antisocial personality disorder.
Doesn't make her a murderer.
No, that's it. And so she actually believed that without meeting Paul, she probably wouldn't murder. She would make people's lives a living hell.
Oh, yeah. She would
my God. She would have done awful things to people.
Yeah.
But without pairing her with Paul, murder probably wasn't on her radar. Whereas Paul, she believed he had sadistic qualities to him, putting him into that psychopath category.
Yeah.
And that it was already flagged by people within the investigation that whoever it was that was perpetrating the rapes was escalating.
Yeah, so they had an FBI profiler come in very early days of the Scarborough Rapist because they were like, this is out of control. We don't know what to do. We don't know who we're looking for. We don't know anything.
Yeah.
And so at that time, the FBI profiler was like, okay, this is a young white male in his 20s. He would be abusive towards any partner he had.
Yeah.
There were lots of different things.
Which tick.
Paul ticked every single one.
Yeah.
They then brought that same FBI profiler back
Yep.
when these murders started happening because they called them the schoolgirl killer murders.
And they did link the two of them together quite quickly due to some marks on the bodies being similar. Like in that they were like the same implement has been used.
Yeah, and one of them, the crime was committed in one place, the body was found in the other, and then the reverse was true for the other victim.
Yes.
So they were like, even geographically we can link them.
Yeah.
But what this profiler did then was, just by chance it happened to be the same person, and he then did a profile on the schoolgirl killer or killers, and he actually said there's more than one of them. But they kind of knew that because people had seen a male and a female getting Kristen into the car. Mm-hmm. But he actually said the exact same thing. It was like, it's a male in his 20s, is abusive against any domestic partner, blah, blah, like all of the things that the FBI profiler noted were true of the Scarborough Rapist and the schoolgirl killer.
Because, well, there was also like in one of the rapes, he did actually stab a girl in the leg twice, I think it was. So he was escalating towards that kind of infliction of injuries and things like that as well. So the psychologist I was listening to was of the opinion like he would have moved to murder with or without Carla potentially, but the combination of the two of them is what escalated it that quickly, and her joining in on it. So, yeah, fundamentally, she might not have been a murderer on her own, but with the combination of somebody else, yes. So, yeah, interesting.
It is.
I just... Where that sits later on, let's get there.
Let's get to that. Go.
Just January 25, 1993 is when the DNA sample came back. Ping! We've got Bernardo DNA linked to the Scarborough Rapists. So
I think they were able to match him on all bar one. Is that right? All bar one that they actually had DNA for.
Yeah, they wouldn't. I don't know if they got DNA off every victim.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, maybe that's what it was. Yeah. They didn't have DNA for one of the victims, but they were able to link him in another way.
But there was plenty there. So yes, they bring in at this point. Actually, what was interesting about this point of it was they actually brought in Carla, not him. And
they immediately started surveilling him, didn't they?
Yes, yeah. And I think they brought her in. And so at this point, they're not looking at the murders whatsoever, but they're linking up a few things. And they brought her in to discuss with her the rapes to see what they would get out of her. And they put it to her. And now, according to her, she had no awareness whatsoever that Paul was the Scarborough Rapist or that was what he was doing.
I do not believe that at this point.
Yeah, at this point, I don't believe she didn't. I mean, again, I don't know if she knew he was the Scarborough Rapist, but I believe wholeheartedly that she knew he was going out and inflicting this on other people.
But they raped women together. She knows he's a rapist.
No, that's what I mean. I think she absolutely knew he was a rapist.
A rapist, yeah.
But whether she was like, oh, he's the Scarborough Rapist. Like, I don't know if that connection had been officially put together.
Right, yeah.
But I do believe she knew that's that would be behaviour of his.
Yeah.
But yeah, at first she acted all dumb and innocent and everything and all of this. So yeah, had no idea. But yeah, I think basically what it planted with her was that she needed to fess up to look after herself here.
And didn't this work out well and truly in her favour?
Oh my God, yeah.
So apparently she was questioned. The first time the police questioned her about all of this, it kind of didn't really go anywhere. I think the police were information gathering at this point. Mm-hmm. They had nothing to accuse her of necessarily. They just wanted to get some information out of her. Tammy was staying with her auntie and uncle. Carla was staying with her auntie and uncle at the time, and she went home and actually confessed to them everything.
Right.
She said to them that, oh my God, Paul has done this. He's done the rapes, and we actually murdered Tammy and these other two girls. And
How could you, like,
her auntie and uncle basically said to her, you need to get a lawyer.
Yes.
So she did that. She met with Niagara Falls lawyer George Walker.
Yeah.
And he sought immunity from the Crown,
Full
from the
immunity.
prosecution,
Yeah.
in exchange for all of the information that Carla knew.
Yeah.
Now, I guess in some ways, to the police's credit, they're like, well, tell us what you've got and we'll see what kind of a deal we can broker here.
Yeah.
And so she did confess to some of bits and pieces, but certainly not all of it.
No.
With that limited information that she gave them, they decided to offer her a deal of 12 years incarceration in exchange for a manslaughter conviction and her testifying against Paul.
Yeah.
Right? I think they gave her 7 days or something to make that decision.
Yeah.
Made it. Of course she made it because she knew there was videotapes.
Yes.
Although they did
hadn't
not
been
know
found
where
yet.
they were at that point.
No.
But she knew that at some point this could potentially come to the fore.
But even in that, like knowing those videotapes exist, and she even stated it in her statement that she that, you know, the tapes will tell you, like, it will show, they'll prove everything, that, you know, I was being forced to do this stuff by Paul, which
the tapes did not show that.
How she? I don't
But
know
what
what
I'm
planet she
saying
was
is
living on.
they've made a plea deal with her based on
Yes,
her information
on her
without
information.
actually having seen the tapes.
Yeah, because the whole time she's like, so she spends 4 days giving them being interviewed.
It was like thousands of pages in terms of like statements.
It's unbelievable. So a lot of information. But as we were saying, all of it is sort of, I was being forced to do this stuff. It was all Paul, and I was just doing what he was saying. My life was in danger if I didn't do this stuff,
I'm
right?
a victim too.
I'm a victim too. The whole time she's doing that for those 4 straight days, she's wearing a watch.
Yes.
She's wearing a Mickey Mouse watch that belonged to Kristen French. So she's so innocent and so, like, just been made to do this.
What
but you've stolen a victim's watch that you're wearing.
Piece of shit. That was
That's
like her going,
trophy-esque.
na, 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 na.
Isn't
They
that
kept trophies from all of their...
Yeah.
Oh, just really quickly, this is going back to Tammy times, but this just reminded me in terms of the trophies.
Yeah.
When Tammy died, Carla kept her clothes and would dress up as Tammy and have sex with Paul dressed as Tammy. They kept other trophies of hers as well that they would use in their sexual play. Oh my fucking God.
Yeah.
Like, honestly,
Just gross.
just disgusting.
Yeah, so she's not, like, I'm not saying that she wasn't a victim of domestic violence or, you know, and that she wasn't.
well,
that she was certainly in a volatile relationship, and in some ways, you know, voluntarily, to be honest. I think she got as much out of it as Paul did in these attacks. She is not as much of a victim as she makes out she is.
Well, no, this deal that she brokered or that her lawyer brokered is known colloquially as a deal with the devil.
Yeah.
And it absolutely is. Because they made this deal, which is binding. It's legally binding. It was court, all the things. It was, you know, it was legally justly made.
Yeah.
But the police didn't actually have all of the information the prosecutor, didn't have all of the information when they offered her this.
Yeah.
So on the 17th of February, the detectives arrested Bernardo on multitude of charges, including rape and murder. Oh, no, sorry. Was it murder at this point? No. I don't think when they originally arrested him, I think it was just for the rapes because they had no proof, no evidence yet for the murders because they hadn't found the tapes yet.
No.
So they obtained a warrant as well for this, but it was actually quite limited in what they were allowed to search for with this warrant. They weren't allowed to knock down walls. They weren't allowed to search. They weren't allowed to cause damage in their search. That was explicit in the warrant.
Yeah.
So they've gone into Paul and Carla's home.
Yeah.
They were there for something like, was it
71
days? 71 days. I was like, I knew it was a long time.
71-day search of the house
But it turned up not a lot. I mean, they found trophies, they found bits and pieces, but nothing that really was that, like, nail in the coffin. And they knew from Carla that there were videos. So that's really what they were looking for.
Yeah, yeah.
They did not find a thing.
No.
During a call from jail, Bernardo told his lawyer at the time, Ken Murray, that the rape videos were actually hidden. He had to go in a light fixture in the bathroom, remove that
ceiling.
to get into the ceiling to get to where the tapes were. So
Yeah.
obviously the police, weren't allowed to do that because they weren't allowed to cause any damage to the structure of the building, but also they hadn't looked there.
Yeah.
This fucking dipshit lawyer.
Well, see, this is where I've read very contradictive
aspects
of this.
Tell me.
So, yeah, there's the viewpoint that he then went, oh, this is like, watched them and kind of went, oh, this will make my client guilty. I'll hide them, right? There's that story. The other story, which is what he claims in court under oath, is that it wasn't that he hid them. It was after viewing them, he knew that it would be detrimental to his client. And so he was protecting trying to work out how best they would be used to protect his client from getting a trial that was in the... I don't know how to word it. I get what he's saying in that if this became public, there was no way he was going to be able to get a jury
or a fair trial.
So that's what his goal was to try and work out how they could be used in a way that didn't prejudice people against his client.
I mean, but if a jury was going to see those tapes anyway, it'd prejudice you, wouldn't you? I mean, it proves that he's a murderer and a rapist.
Yeah, from all accounts, and he adamantly, when he watched these like traumatized him seeing them. He has absolutely said these are the most disgusting things he's ever seen in his life. But he was arrested. He was charged with obstruction of justice, but was acquitted.
Yeah.
So I think we have to take into account that the intention wasn't to just, I'm just going to hide these and not tell him. Apparently he did tell people about them, but it was a conversation was happening, behind the scenes about how it could be used and keeping it legal.
To be fair as well, he also resigned as Paul's legal counsel.
So whether or not he did it,
I think he watched those videos and went, I just can't. I can't represent this person.
How do I now represent him? And so, but he was trying to, it wasn't necessarily that he was vehemently hiding them away. He was trying to work out, we're fucked. But what can I do here to manipulate this to try and defend my client? And that was taking time and conversations with people before he was releasing them to anyone else. I think he agrees that it wasn't necessarily above board, but it was like, what else am I supposed to do? Like I'm meant to defend this person.
Yeah.
And now I've got this.
No, that's fair.
So he was acquitted of it. I don't know.
So Bernardo hires a new lawyer upon Ken's resignation by the name of John Rosen, and he immediately turned the tapes over to the police. Yeah. So he did the right thing in my mind. That's what Ken should have done. His crisis of conscience, I don't really understand it. Like I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, but he's a lawyer and he has an oath in which he needs to and a way he needs to conduct himself, and I don't think he met that.
Yeah, well, a judge decided he did. Yeah. Like they acquitted him of it. Like they said it was a difficult situation he was in, they reckon. He was trying, apparently in the background was actually, as much as he didn't hand them over immediately, he was like trying to find a way that they could be used to protect his client's ability of getting a fair trial.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that because I agree with the situation. I'm just saying what I read. Yeah. No, I think the tapes should have been handed over immediately as well. But that's his word of what apparently went on. Yeah.
So anyway,
yes,
we get to Paul's trial, I guess.
Well, Hamalka's trial first.
Oh yes,
occurred. So obviously she's got the plea deal, so it's not exactly a lengthy situation. But she ends up being in July 1993 pleads guilty to 2 counts of manslaughter, and receives a whopping 12 years in jail. So there's massive controversy around this, of the fact that her participation, because by this stage even these tapes are known about, so people are aware that she's more involved than what this plea deal was based on. Mm-hmm. Now, the other thing we should note here, obviously, that she was the plea deal only included 2 counts of manslaughter, because one, Jane Doe's stuff didn't come around. It wasn't known until the tapes were found.
Yep.
But also Tammy wasn't known until the tapes
were
were
found.
found. So this is the thing where, okay, 12 years for 2 counts of manslaughter, but in hindsight, she should also then be further charged with Tammy's murder, let alone maybe a manslaughter one there as well, if that's what you want to plea it down to, because she's fessing up, but she didn't really fess up to that as much. And the Jane Doe, where she's assaulted her as well, so there should be assault charges there and
rape
more
charges,
things
yep.
attached to that. So, yeah, lots of controversy around all of her sentencing.
But when she was released from prison, what she gone and done for herself?
Well, yeah, yep.
So she left prison after the 12 years.
2005, she was released from prison.
She changed her name. Actually, well, Paul and Carla both changed their names.
Mm-hmm.
So they called themselves surname Teal, Teale, for a while there.
Yeah.
Carla then distanced herself from that, obviously, when all of the charges came down.
They were, she filed for divorce from him after about 12 months in prison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair call. She is now known by Leanne Bordelais. So she married a man, I think his name's Stephen Bordelais.
No,
was it?
Cyril.
Terry Bordelais.
Terry.
Yes, sorry, you're right.
Yeah.
And he was the brother of her legal counsel.
No.
No? Oh.
So she did date the brother of her legal counsel.
Okay.
His name was David.
Okay.
And this is where, like, contradictory. I mean, I might be wrong here, because what I've read is that, no, that guy's name was David.
Okay.
And yes, she did date him when she first came out of prison, and I think they saw each other for a while, but it didn't last.
Right.
Then she met Terry
Okay.
and then married him.
And they've had 2 kids.
Yeah. So they live a very relatively private life.
Yeah.
They're back in Quebec now. They've moved around a fair bit.
A lot.
But well, to be honest, to this day, she actually separated from him in 2014. Her husband, but it's not been reported. They live such a private life that there's no proof of them being together or not. But last known reports were that they were separated in 2014. Whether that stuck or whether they got back together, I don't know. But she has been seen at her kids' school and hanging out there, and which I find revolting, but because these girls were 14, 15 that she was assaulting, but she does not have any, she doesn't have to report herself as a sex offender because she didn't have those charges put against her. So there's no legal reason for her not to be around children.
Nope.
Or have her own children. Like, I don't know. Like, it mortifies me that she's raising children.
And her kids are like in their late teens now, so she'd be hanging around teenagers. I mean,
would you let your child go around to her place for a play date or a sleepover, as we were talking earlier?
Holy fuck no.
And the thing is, she's changed her name and stuff. I mean, you could be mistaken and not know who she was.
Oh, I think you could very easily not know who she was.
That I just find horrendous.
Yeah. You just don't know.
No.
And this is the thing, you just don't know. You don't know people.
Nah. So she's kept very quiet. There's been no more incidents that we're aware of. But yeah, interesting woman.
She did volunteer at her kids' school, and then some parents found out who she actually was, and then that's caused
very vocal around
issues
her being there.
Yeah.
To be honest, if you really want to keep quiet, though, wouldn't you just not do that?
Oh, for sure. For sure.
I don't know.
You shouldn't.
No. So we jump back a bit to Bernardo's trial. Now, so obviously Karla Homolka was their key witness. She sat on the stand for 17 days to give evidence against Paul, which was all part of her plea deal. So at this point, though, the tapes are out there and they were used within the trial, audio only, and the visual was only seen by those who needed to
by the jury and not even other attendees of the court. They were only allowed to listen.
Yeah, there was a whole media ban thing on this whole trial that is a whole thing in Canada that they have going on for a lot of things. Well, back then they did. I'm not sure if they still do, because I don't know how you would these days. Back then it was hard enough with people smuggling newspapers across the border from America who could report on this trial. Whereas let alone now where podcasts, etc., like let alone internet searches, so people could find information anyway. I don't know how they would manage it. But
I think it's changed.
Yeah. But there was
the
a
90s.
very big media ban. But also the tapes were so confronting that they didn't allow public, access to any of those. But Carla did speak very openly at the trial and about what went on. So, which to me, like, then this is where, like, I guess there wasn't that clause in her plea deal that where we've talked about that here in Australia is quite often used, that if what you've put in your statement isn't accurate, they can then still get you on those charges. So
I read somewhere that her plea deal was like ironclad.
Yeah.
As in, I think there was even a clause in it that was like, this is final, you cannot perpetrate
down
for
on
any
this.
other for any other crimes in relation to this case. Like, it was clearly watertight because they've never pursued her any further or been able to pursue her any further.
Because then, like, she's perjured herself in that in the trial she did speak about what went on, and that her and obviously her partaking in it, because the video showed that, so which wasn't in her original statements, that she bargained the plea deal on. So interesting. But yeah, 17 days she sat on that, sat in the trial and did that. And then Bernardo was sentenced to life in prison, and life in prison, 25 years without parole. So technically in 2024, I believe.
Yeah, it was December 2024. Yeah,
he was due to be considered for parole.
For the third time.
Oh, sorry. Yes. No, you're right. Because I remember, as I was saying that, I'm going, I'm sure I saw a 1919.
Yeah, so
a 2019.
There was a 2019, then somewhere in between.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was 2023 actually, and then 2024.
Yeah.
Actually, it might have been 2022 and 2024. But every time he's applied to the parole board, he's been rejected. He's considered what's the word they use, or the phrase they use? It's like a dangerous criminal or something.
Yes.
And so the likelihood of him ever actually gaining parole is extremely slim.
So even to this day, so recently he was actually moved from a maximum security prison to a medium security prison. So he's been assessed as over 14 times since 1999, and one of them, with the correction system uses to determine an inmate is in the right, that they're in the right prison, is called a security reclassification scale. And so with doing that, they actually released it because of him being such a known criminal. They were very transparent around the fact of why they were moving him. They didn't, because there's been such an outcry about this whole case. They did release a report with some bits that were redacted, but fairly open public knowledge. They did release a report on him so that the public would feel comfortable around the move, but I don't know if it did. The recommendation of him being moved had actually been overridden 13 times prior to this, which to me says, well, that's, enough.
It's maybe a hard no.
Yeah. That was keeping him in the maximum security one. But more recently, he was deemed as being that the significant risk wasn't there anymore.
Okay.
So apparently he's been a little bit of a model inmate.
Yeah, because he's fucking chumming the pants off people to get what he wants.
There was a report. Part of the report was there was heavily redacted aspects of the report that suggested that he was actually more of a victim in prison than a perpetrator.
I've heard that, but that to me, I'm like, well, that's your just desserts, dude.
Yep. So he's actually only, when he was in maximum security, he was actually released into sort of more general population, like twice, in two different periods of time.
And he got the shit beaten out of him both times.
Yeah, but he's also been found to have contraband in his cell, and he has also perpetrated a few things as well over the time he's been in prison.
Well, he made a shiv and tried to stab someone.
Yeah, yeah. The one part of it that was redacted that I don't think should have been was that they did do a test on him called the Severe Sexual Sadism Scale.
Oh, and we didn't get to see that.
We didn't get the results of that, unfortunately, which to me, honestly, the fact that you even have to administer that.
Or redact it.
And then redact it says a hell of a lot.
Yeah, we probably actually don't need any more information.
Don't need any more information than that, no. But in 2023, he was deemed as being there was several responsivity issues with him, and they warned that his imprisonment should remain imminent.
Yeah, so I think from what I heard in terms of his move from the maximum security to medium security was because over time he poses less of a risk to the prison population.
Yeah.
And so the likelihood is he'll be in prison forever, but he was able to be moved because of other inmates, not because of he's going to be out in the, that's right, or be out and bloody society again.
No, they were just
But
wanting to make
he
sure
asked-
that he wasn't going to be able to escape. And
That's right.
Because he is still a risk to the community.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
He asked to be moved to this prison, though, because of the facilities there.
Yeah.
He's, like, super into his health and fitness, and it's got, like, a world-class gym.
There was a photo of him in the van, like, that they actually got through that. And you still can't look at him and go, like, he's an attractive
actually a
bloke.
decent-looking guy.
Which
Yeah.
he's gotten quite a bit of attention from those unusual women who think that writing letters to serial killers and stuff's good. So he's had many a relationship in prison.
Got quite the number of pen pals, doesn't he?
Yeah. Which, even with me saying he's a bit hot, there's fucking no way.
Oh, my God,
Fucking
no.
no way. Why would you write letters to someone like that? Like, it's just...
You know, he's, like, murdered and raped people.
Yeah. Well,
women.
even Carla, while she was in prison, so at first she had a relationship with a woman whilst in prison for quite an extended period of time, but the two of them broke up and they changed prisons and then came back together, but it was clear that that was over.
Yeah.
She then ended up having a sexual relationship, an intimate relationship with Paul's cellmate. How the fuck does that happen?
Well, see, this is the thing that gets me with Carla. I'm like, have you not learnt your fucking lesson?
Yeah. I mean, part of her release conditions is that she is to be not communicating with that bloke at all.
But then she's gotten to him in another way by being with the cellmate. Like,
No.
as in,
no, I mean, no, the cellmate as well. It's part of her conditions that she's not to have
right.
any contact with Paul or the cellmate that she had a relationship with whilst in jail. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Come on.
And because this guy is a hardcore, like I couldn't
So
remember what he did.
why wasn't she thrown back in prison then?
No, this was while
having
she was
contact?
in prison.
Oh, right.
No, yeah, like while she's in prison, somehow she was having this relationship with this bloke.
Oh, I thought it was after she was in
Nope.
prison. What the fuck? Like, honestly,
I don't know
just
how
can't
that
even with
happens.
this woman. I cannot even.
No. So, I mean, who was this person she married? And I don't know. My opinion of her is that I think she's just as evil as
Agreed.
Paul.
I agree.
I listening to this psychologist talk about her, I do agree with what she said, that like, would she have become a murderer without Paul? Probably not. Maybe not. I can't guarantee that. Maybe not. Maybe someone else she would have met, she would have taken down a bad path. I don't know. But she clearly had a lot fucking going wrong with her. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I think she, as you know, she would have injured, hurt some people.
Whether it was murder or not.
Murder or not,
Who knows? But
who knows?
Yeah.
And I dread to think of her as a mother.
Oh, this is those poor kids.
I hope that there are people with eyeballs on that family. Like, I mean, child protection.
They'd have to surely. I mean, but then she's not a convicted sex offender, so.
But she is a sex offender.
But she is a sex offender, I know. But then would she have been even alerted to authorities because she doesn't have a conviction for that? We could talk around this for ages.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Should we leave it there? Anything
that's
else you want to
everything.
add? I mean,
No.
look, again, we say this every week. If you want to know more about it, there is a lot of
There's a lot
content
out
out
there.
there.
Yeah.
A lot of conflicting information. So as we said, we've really done our best to kind of keep on track.
Just saw how long we've gone for. Too.
I know. Sorry, guys. Thank you very much for joining us again. Next week, we are going to be bringing you a case from Ireland with a French person, actually.
Yeah.
Sophie Toscan du Plantier.
Oh, well done. You said that.
Thank you.
Nice.
I've been practicing. We're going to have to practice a lot. Some of the names
Sorry,
in
I'm not
next
going to be able
week's.
to. Oh, I'm going to be fucked. I can't do that.
We'll call her Sophie.
I was enjoying that. This episode enough.
E.
That's enough for me.
So, yeah, stay tuned next week for that one. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to do all the normal things. Go over and follow us on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. If you'd like to buy us a coffee like the beautiful Emma James did.
We're going to go get wine now.
Oh, yeah, we are doing that right now.
On Emma. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Emma. Please do so at buymeacoffee.com/2crimebesties.
Excellent. Stay curious, crime besties.
Bye.